Closer look at the current migration situation and attitudes in the European Union. I'm joined now by Remi Piet, Senior Director at America's Market Intelligence. Thanks for coming in.
Hi.
So let's begin with just your sense of the expectations for this week's meetings. Can we expect any common goals or plans to be announced?
Well, there's two main issues that are being discussed in Salzburg. And there's the Brexit issue with Theresa May trying to find a middle of the ground road where she would actually both get an agreement with the European Union and also back home with her opposition within the Tory party on Brexit. And obviously this issue of migration, which has been on the agenda of the European Union agenda for several months now without key progress on this issue. There's been some slight evolution with the agreement that additional means should be put in place at the frontier, the external frontier of the European Union, with the European Union trying afterwards to diffuse the amount of migrants with a quota system in different countries. But here, even that issue, which is probably a more security-driven position, there's still discontentment from the countries such as Hungary, Austria, that do not feel comfortable with the idea of having security forces that are not from their country at their border. So there's still a very large issue about how to tackle this, and also trying to find what would be a European answer. Are we talking about a united answer towards the migrant crisis, or are we looking at an intergovernmental answer with each country trying to enforce different positions towards the migration issue today, and will be in line with the European values that were at the cradle of the building of the European Union, being able to open the continent to those that actually are seeking political asylum and are longing for democracy.
So there's been a discussion on strengthening the joint border control agency known as Frontex. What are some of the proposals there?
I mean, Frontex is a policy that has been in place for several years now, but the financial means were not to the level of the expectations, both from bordering countries and also from migrants trying to find some kind of a secure answer to their welcoming, or to finding long-term position for them. Frontex is actually a gathering of security and military answers to the migrant solution. Right now, we're seeing not only Frontex being kind of reaffirmed, but also some alternative ways, which are, for example, trying to sign some agreements with other Mediterranean countries outside of the European Union. There's been talks with Egypt, there's been talks with Morocco, that could be actually harbors for those migrants. But that doesn't solve the issue that, the question is whether those that are in the legitimate right of seeking political asylum in the European Union, for example, will maybe not find these kind of welcoming conditions in Morocco or in Egypt, and therefore might try to go back and try their luck to cross the Mediterranean.
Well, look at what the UN has said about the conditions in Libya for them.
Absolutely.
What are the prospects for some type of resettlement, though, outside of Europe in that case? I mean, you don't seem to be very optimistic about that.
I mean, the idea is to try to seal some kind of financial agreement with northern African countries. It's obviously a request that is following the demands from the governments in Italy, Hungary, Austria. But look again at we're looking at trying to find a way for migrants to prosper, and I'm not sure that by sending them back to another country that probably will not be in line with the basic needs of welcoming migrants and trying to sustain themselves, have issues with democracy,
Sure.
have issues with basic freedoms. That's basically just outsourcing an issue and just sending money because you just don't want to be up to your responsibilities.
Well, there's this, as you mentioned, there's this whole idea of Brexit and how it intersects with migration at this conference. What will Brexit mean for those coming to the United Kingdom for work, do you think?
What's interesting is that this issue of migration with Brexit is a different issue of migration. It's migration from the European Union countries. So most, from the British perspective, it's mostly from Eastern European countries, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, that actually went through the single market, went to find work in England. And the issue here is that trying to strike a deal between the United Kingdom and Europe on what would be the fate of the European workers already in England for a long time. There's actually right now an agreement that there will be a status quo to their situation until December 2020. But after that, we still don't have a clear idea of what will be the position from both the European Union and the United Kingdom. There's also issues of trying to find the basis for agreement of how the United Kingdom will base their relation with the European Union based on freedom of circulation of goods and services. The UK would like to maintain some kind of a status quo on the capacity to continue trade for its economy between the United Kingdom and the European Union. But even inside the United Kingdom, there's actually opposition to Theresa May from David Davis or from Boris Johnson that actually wanted to have a hard Brexit and prevent the European Union from influencing the kinds of norms and kinds of products that will be produced in England. So here Theresa May is in a very hard situation of trying to strike a deal between the strong demands from the European Union, and that's actually the right of the European Union to maintain clear situations that there won't be a future Brexit, or there will be norms put in place, and a political game back at home between Boris Johnson, David Davis, and Theresa May.
Remi Piet, thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate your insight.